So with the rear brakes done on the truck, we can finally get to some of the important but less urgent issues, like the disappearing coolant, leaky tires, or broken air conditioning. Wait a minute, what's this? Seems like we got another issue here. The rear driver's side suspension shackle, which connects the leaf springs to the truck, is broken and shoved up through the truck bed. YouTube videos make it sound like replacing a shackle will be pretty easy. It's just popping out a few bolts and throwing a new shackle in after all. How hard could it be? Heads up that a suspension system is perhaps one of the most inherently dangerous areas of a vehicle. There's a lot of power contained in springs and other suspension parts, so if you try this yourself, as always, beware.
Daddy!
Yeah. Step 1, don't ever put anything underneath the wheel. Like, don't stick your foot underneath it or anything like that. Because if the truck were to accidentally fall, it could crush your foot. Now we can take these nuts off.
Okay.
Without those lug nuts, it falls right off. And now we can take the wheel and put it underneath the truck. That keeps it out of the way, and that way if the truck falls off of those jack stands, then it'll land on the wheel instead of us.
Good idea.
Nice.
But it might break the wheel.
It might, but it's easier to buy a new wheel than it is to buy a new us, right?
Yeah. And we don't want to buy a new one.
That's right. The socket kept getting stuck on rusty bolts. Now this hitch is out of the way for when I need to push some bolts out. This is the point where I realized that I was going to have to move the axle around to install the shackles, so I had to move the jack stand. This big impact wrench is like a cheat code for removing stuck nuts and bolts in the rust belt, but as you can see, there's not really enough room to use it inside the fender area of the truck bed here, so I'm at a considerable disadvantage already. Press! This is another recurring problem throughout this repair. There's just not much room to work. At this point, you might be thinking, why don't you just remove the leaf spring? Then you could work on this stuff in the comfort of the whole world instead of being tucked up inside a fender. Believe me, I'm normally all about doing a little more work to reduce misery while working, and I definitely was ready to go down that route here, but let me show you why I didn't go down that path. To get the front bolt out for the driver's side leaf spring, you first need to remove the gas tank, which is just nuts. All of this stuff is, of course, rusty and terrible, and it sounds like it's a recipe for broken gas lines and bolts that spin forever, that type of stuff. Yeah, those rusty parts are going to need to be replaced eventually, but they aren't broke right now, and I have too much stuff to do on the truck already. Let's save that fun for another day. So I continued avoiding one unknown amount of pain in exchange for a more familiar one. It was time to turn to fire to loosen things up, and an air hammer to drive things out. I don't like using heat like this because of the fire risk, but sometimes there's no other option, and it does really make a difference. And with that, the top bolt and bushing were out. So I moved on to the leaf spring bushing sleeve. Now I'm trying to cut the sleeve to make it easier to peel out of there. This is what we're trying to do. If you look real close, you can see there's a little sleeve in there, and it is just all messed up right now because I've been hammering away at it, the air hammer. But that's got to come out before I can put a new bushing in there. So I think next step is to get the leaf spring lowered down so I can get at that easier. All right, I got an idea. I'm gonna try to pound a screwdriver or a chisel into the crack here in the eye of this leaf spring. See if that opens up the leaf spring enough that I can pound out the sleeve from there. I just can't get in there. It occurs to me that if I get this bottom bolt and the bottom half of the shackle out, it might make more room to work on getting that bushing out on the top. And it's a nice break from beating on that thing up there, so I'm gonna give this a try. This is what I was afraid of. I'm not scared, you're scared. After all that, everything was fine. This was just the rubber bushing and maybe some penetrating fluid burning up. Some people actually start the bushings on fire on purpose to get them out, but still not a very calming experience. All right, I gotta pause here for a moment. Remember that little chunk of bolt that I just cut off? When I put my arm on the ground trying to move to a different spot, right here, my arm landed right on that chunk of bolt, and it was hot. In fact, I essentially branded myself with part of the truck. It's like 6 months later, this mark isn't going anywhere. It seems a little silly to have a permanent scar like this from such a silly thing, but I guess the truck will always be a part of me now. Anyway, I had to try the press one more time, and it continued to not go well. So now it's just gonna hammer right out, easy peasy. At this point, I went back to cutting. Sweet, that's progress. But this time I tried rotating the bolts around. That way I could cut as deep as I could on the top of the bolt. Then I could rotate the bolt around and start from the bottom where my cutting disc couldn't reach before. Guess that one's done. Yes! As I've talked about previously in the truck series, sometimes you just need to take a break and a project will get easier. This time I took a break for about 2 months, so I should just fly right through the rest of this now, right? I did do something to potentially make this easier though, and that's upgrade my air compressor. I went from a 6-gallon to a 20-gallon. That means I should be able to do more hammering before I have to wait for the air tank to refill. So more hammering, less time. That back piece is starting to come out. That's huge. Yes! All right. That's it. So with that sleeve out, at this point I could say I'm done with this. I want to be driving the truck again. Because the shackle on the other side doesn't look as bad. It could last a while the way it is. But I think I'm gonna keep going for a couple of reasons here. 1, I still remember what I'm doing. 2, if this breaks and I have to fix it in the winter, it's gonna be so terrible. I really don't want to keep going, but I do not want to be working on this in the winter. A third thing is that with the shackle still out on this side, I can position the leaf spring with the jack and see where it would be if there was a shackle to get the suspension kind of in the right place for working on it on the other side. Because on the other side, the shackle hasn't broken yet. Gee whiz, I just can't get it. I mean, this is just insane because there's no place to put yourself to get this to work. You get it good in one angle and you can't fit in there somewhere else. And so then you get in a better position, but then the gun doesn't fit. So you move the hose, but then you don't fit. Gosh, there is just the smallest chunk left here. It's not even trying to cut, it's just jammed. Yes. Another quick break to say sometimes things go wrong and make a lot more work. Like right here, when my GoPro decided that anything over a whisper was too loud and messed up the sound. Meaning I had to go back through and find fake examples of sound for all of those clips. I think it worked surprisingly well. Let me know if you could tell down below. Other times, things go wrong and it makes your life easier. Like what you're about to see here. The bolt is stuck, it won't turn, yet I keep pushing and the head breaks off. That's amazing. I don't know if you can see the joy in my face. This usually is terrible, but not here. Here, it just saved me a bunch of time because that meant I didn't have to cut off that side of the bolt. It hadn't occurred to me to try to trigger a failure like this, so if you're gonna tackle this project, this might be worth a try. All right, I've got a different impact driver to try. It's a lot shorter than my other one. And I've got a flex hose adapter for the back. We're gonna see if these things change the game for getting some force on that bolt. It already fits better. So the back bracket part that had completely rusted off on the other side was still here on this side, and that was a big problem. I mean, it wasn't a big problem, but that's probably part of the reason why I couldn't get the thing off. It's out now. Oh, thank God. Why was that other side so hard? That went right on. What is, oh jeez. I've had a wrench on there this whole time. Do you remember why we stick the wheel under the truck?
So it doesn't fall on us.
That's right.
We don't want to get a new ice, we want to get a new wheel.
That's right. Want this to be really clean. Same with this. Yep. Now you can turn this.
Okay. It's just like one of those special guys that you use downstairs.
Yep. At the time that Malcolm said that, I thought, sure, yep, whatever you say. But then it occurred to me, down in the wood shop, Malcolm was talking about using my great-grandpa's brace almost a year earlier. Talk about a good memory, I had totally forgotten about it. You can look at the screen, or you can watch over here, but I just want you back away from the truck while I'm lowering it down.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yep. Why do we need that?
Because that just covers up the... For the record, a hubcap protects the important parts of the wheel from crud on the road, and it makes the wheel look prettier.
Make sure to line it up.
Yep.
Yeah! We're almost done.
All right.
Now, spider, spider, spider.
Where?
Oh, it's just right here.
Well, hopefully he gets out of there. Put the chuck on, and now you can press. We're going for 36 PSI.
Almost there. There.
35, 36.
36.
All right, now you can screw the nut back on.
Let this beep.
There, we're all set. Now we're ready to drive. Good work.
Woohoo! Let's start!
Got the garage door opener. Done with the test!
Did he say we're done with the test?
I think he was joking. He just forgot the garage door opener.
So far, so good. What do you think, Malcolm?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what's the final opinion on this project? Could the average person do this one? Should the average person do it? I would say if you live in some pristine, rust-free area, this is probably going to be relatively easy for you. But if you live somewhere where it gets rusty, then you're going to need some heat, a big air compressor, and more time than you might think. If you're working on your project truck and it can sit on jack stands for a while when you get stuck, then hey, you just found a good excuse to go buy a big air compressor for your air hammer. But if you need to do this in a hurry, this is not going to be a fun one for you. Best of luck. In any case, with the shackles fixed, we're back to square one, so we can get back to our project list. I think I might start with something easy, like my broken side view mirror motors. Wait a minute, what's this?